My girlfriend, 37 years old and now her mother, won't stop talking about an engagement. Her mother literally told her to move on today. What bothers me, 38 years old, most about the situation is that the conversation has been, why hasn't he done it yet, as opposed to what can she do to get there? I'll pause here and say that it feels to me like this is the destination or the bottom of the checklist. While for me, it's the beginning of the journey. And instead of something to be checked off, it has to make sense. So let's talk about why it doesn't make sense. She's stubborn to a fault. As I write this, she's coming up on a year of being unemployed. During that year, I spent about $40,000 of my income to keep her afloat. I've asked her repeatedly to move into my place, which would dramatically lower the burden. She refuses. What's her reason? My ex-wife lived here. Instead, my significant other wants me to sell my house, it's paid off, and buy us a new house. The kind of house she wants, even if she sold her house too, would leave us with a mortgage close to $500,000. So sell my free and clear house. Go and put $500,000 in debt on my shoulders for your ego? Absolutely not. I know some women agree with her, my cousin does for one, but what usually silences that is, when you get a new boyfriend, do you buy a new bed? Or even bother to get new sheets? Don't ask me to get a new house when you won't even buy a new bed. Back to my issue, I'm supposed to make this huge commitment on my side with a proposal, and she can't even make the commitment to put her ego down? But let her tell it. Everything is his way or the highway. On my end, it feels more like she'd rather have no movement on an issue than to have movement which may be logically correct but emotionally bad for her. That's not a partner. That's not a good quality in a wife. And I've stayed as long as I have, being patient for her to adjust. I largely feel like, for the most part, how your life looks is the product of your choices. I'm 38 soon, I own outright my new luxury car, I'm a high-income earner, I have no student debt, and I own my 4-bed, 4-bath, 3,000 square feet home outright with no mortgage. None of this is lottery winnings or life insurance money. It's hard work and right choices. So I feel like if she doesn't see in me the leader she needs to get on board with, least of all when she's going on a year of being carried by me, then I'm just not the one for her. #update 1. A lot of you mentioned that I haven't given her a compliment. That was only because the subject of the post was our differences. I do love her. I think outside of these kinds of differences, we're extremely compatible. She was doing very well before being surprised with a layoff, and because I didn't want to see her lose the equity she built in her home, I stepped in to pay the bills. That said, the offer has been move in and A, be a stay-at-home wife. B, get you a little part-time job just to have your own money. C, go back to school and retrain for a new career. Or D, work full-time. I really don't care which she chooses. I've got her covered. She refuses. Some of you have asked how long we've been together. We have a 7-year-old together, which makes it that much worse in my opinion. I've been asking her to move in for 7 years so our daughter can have the concept of home and not mommy's house and daddy's house. And this has been a fight for 7 years. I brought into the relationship 2 children from my previous marriage. She brought one from her previous relationship. My house is the only one big enough to accommodate the size of our blended family. I'm holding on, exercising patience, etc., because I want to keep my family together. And as far as what to do with her property, it's her choice. I really don't care which she chooses. She could rent it out, and even pricing below current rental rates, the mortgage is paid by the tenant. She could Airbnb it, maybe make enough to cover the mortgage, maybe not, or maybe a lot more. She could let her mom move in and assume the bills. Mom's house is falling apart. Or sell it and pocket the equity, which I see as her money, and I'm not looking for a piece of any of it. But carrying 2 households doesn't make any sense. Even when she was working and paying her own bills, it made 0 sense that we're paying 2 sets of utilities. That's money that could be doing anything other than disappearing out the door. And I want to be married too. It's not that I'm being dragged kicking and screaming. If you remove our inability to work together, I'd physically carry her down to the court so we could sign the papers today. I just foresee our inability to problem solve as a reason to get divorced, if we were married. If we can fix that prior to marriage, then I'm all for it. #update 2. I've noticed a few comments about leadership. First and foremost, I do view marriage as a partnership. But imagine yourself owning a restaurant where you and the other person each own 50%. One of you wants to upgrade to digital menu boards, the other does not. The money is there, it's just a difference of taste. How do you decide? I use this example because it's one that literally took place between she and I, where I financed much more than half of the business but made her an equal 50-50ths partner, because we're together and we'll be getting married anyway. I wanted the digital boards. She did not. We ended up not getting them. The truth is, compromise isn't always 50-50ths. Sometimes it's 75-25ths or even 100-0ths. But not making a decision to me is like standing in the street arguing which way to go and life is a Mack truck barreling towards you. And in those cases, somebody has to lead, meaning somebody has to allow themselves to be led. Generally speaking, I'm a solutions-oriented person. Show me the path where there's more upside than downside, and 99% of the time, that's the path I'll choose. That's why, even in a business where I, 1, have demonstrably more business experience, and 2, finance the damn thing myself, I conceded to her point. It was 0-100, and I don't look back at that choice with regret. But it's kinda crazy to me that to have expectations of my partner, much less expectations that set us up for success, counts as a negative against me. Women have all kinds of expectations of men, and society just kinda goes along with it. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You are the jerk, not for refusing to marry your girlfriend, but for staying with her when you clearly don't want to be in a relationship with her. If your partner refuses to improve, and you're dissatisfied with that, the adult thing to do is break up, not just keep waiting and getting more and more bitter. Also, the way you write about her, like you need to be the leader and you got where you are by hard work, as opposed to her, who is so lazy and dumb, is just kind of disconcerting. I get that you're frustrated from years of a shitty relationship, and I'm not saying you're not entitled to be upset, but when you talk about someone you're supposed to love like this, it is a sign that you need to split. Break up yesterday. Comment 2. You are not the jerk for not marrying her. But you are the jerk for even staying with her. She's expecting a marriage. If you can't get there, leave. She doesn't have to do anything to get herself there. Either she's acceptable to you now or she isn't. No one's going to fault you for deciding she won't make a good partner. Don't hold out for a potential version of her that only exists in your head. She hasn't moved in with you because she wants marriage first, and she knows once you move in together, she won't be in a position to bargain anymore. 1 year unemployed and you bankroll her? She's probably looking for a man to take care of her. Is that you? If no, leave now. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my previous post and for all your comments and insights. I wanted to give you an update on what's been happening over the past few days. Unfortunately, things have taken a turn for the worse. My girlfriend and I got into a huge argument about our living situation again. She accused me of being controlling and not considering her feelings by insisting she move into my house. I tried to explain that it just makes the most financial sense, but she wouldn't hear it. She said she feels like I'm always putting my needs and wants above hers. The fight escalated, and she ended up storming out, saying she needed space to think. That was 2 days ago, and I've barely heard from her since, just a couple short texts. I'm worried that this might be the beginning of the end for us. To make matters worse, her mother called me yesterday to chew me out about not proposing yet. She said her daughter deserves a man who is fully committed, and that if I'm not willing to take that step, maybe I should let her find someone who will. I was so taken aback I didn't even know how to respond. As I've been reflecting on everything, I've started to wonder if maybe there are some deeper issues in our relationship that we've been ignoring. The truth is, we've always struggled with communication and compromise. Even small decisions like what color to paint a room can turn into a big ordeal. I think part of the problem stems from our different upbringings and experiences. She grew up in a family where the women called a lot of the shots. Her mom was the primary breadwinner and made most of the household decisions. In my family, it was the opposite. My dad was definitely the head of the household. So I think we both have these ingrained ideas about gender roles and decision-making that are clashing. There have been other red flags over the years, too, that I'm just now putting together. Like how she always expects me to pay for everything, even though she was working and making good money herself before the layoff. Or how she sometimes puts me down in front of other people, making little jokes at my expense. I've always just brushed that stuff off, but now I'm wondering if it's part of a bigger pattern. I've been doing a lot of soul-searching, trying to figure out if this relationship is really right for me. I love her and our daughter more than anything, but I'm starting to question if we're truly compatible for the long haul. I worry that her stubbornness and my need for logic and order might just be too much to overcome. At the same time, the thought of splitting up our family breaks my heart. I grew up in a broken home, and I never wanted that for my kids. But is staying together for the kids really the right thing if mom and dad are constantly at odds? I just don't know. I guess the big question I'm wrestling with is, can someone really change, especially at our age? Can two people who are fundamentally different in their approach to life and problem-solving make it work? Or are we just delaying the inevitable? I don't have any answers yet. All I know is the last few days have given me a lot to think about. I'm realizing that maybe love, as strong as it is, isn't always enough. It takes so much more to make a relationship last. Anyway, thanks for letting me vent and sort through my thoughts. Writing this all out has actually been pretty therapeutic. I'm still not sure what the future holds for my girlfriend and I, but I know we have some serious issues to work through if we're going to make it. I'll keep you all posted. Thanks again for all your support and advice. Ada for not wanting my wife in the hospital room after she kicked me out during her labor. My wife, 33 years old, and I, 35 years old, have been married for 8 years. A couple of years ago, my wife gave birth to a baby girl. My wife was struggling a lot with her emotions in the weeks leading up to labor, and she pretty much hated me and started resenting me. When she gave birth, she did not want me in the operating room. This broke my heart and devastated me, but it was my wife's choice and I respected it. Post-labor, my wife was much better with her emotions, and she apologized for how she had behaved in the months leading up to labor, and she said she was just extremely nervous about labor and for our baby. I told her there was no reason to apologize, and we both put it behind us. However, it always on the back of my mind how my wife did not trust me during her toughest moments. A couple of weeks ago, I fractured my left arm. I was outside and falling backwards and used my arms for support as I was falling back, and I fell on my arm. The pain was excruciating, and I still have no idea how I did not pass out from the pain. It was clear from one look at my arm that it was horrible. The pain was too much, and I even cried. I called my sister in tears, and she came over in 15 minutes and drove me to the hospital. Long story short, I had broken my arm, and the doctors said it would require surgery, and they would do it the next day, as surgery would require preparation. I was temporarily put in a sling and was given pain medication. My wife had come to the hospital an hour later after I had called and told her what happened. When she came over, I realized she was actually the last person I wanted to be with, so I told her I did not want her there. It was unnecessary, and my sister was already here. I also told her not to come the following day. My wife was sad and asked me why, but I was in a terrible mood, so I told her to just leave. My wife wanted to talk more, but my sister took her out because I was in no mood to talk. My sister stayed with me overnight at the hospital, and then the next day too. Surgery took a few hours, and I was told to stay at the hospital for a few more hours before they discharged me. I was put in a cast, and the doctors said they would remove it in 8 months. My sister then dropped me off at home after I was discharged from the hospital. My wife and I are pretty open with each other about our feelings, and a couple of days later, we had a heart-to-heart discussion. My wife told me she had felt extremely hurt when I asked her to leave the hospital, and she asked me why I did not want her at the hospital. I told her that subconsciously it was because I did not feel safe with my wife in my toughest moments, because she too did not trust me a couple of years earlier when she was going through her tough moments. My wife then cried a lot, and we did not talk much after that. The next day, we decided to start looking for a couples therapist to help us work through these issues. Am I the AH? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. My sister stayed with me overnight at the hospital and then the next day as well. The surgery took a few hours, and I was told to stay at the hospital for a few more hours before they discharged me. I was put in a cast, and the doctors said they would remove it in 8 months. My sister then brought me home after I was discharged from the hospital. Comment 2. I understand if you didn't want her there on the day of the surgery, but why did you forbid her from coming the next day? For someone who said, my wife and I are pretty open with each other about our feelings, you obviously were not, considering you felt the need to get back at her for forbidding you in the operating room years ago. Well, at least now you guys are looking for couple therapy, but it should have been done years ago. But I guess it's never too late. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last post and a lot has happened in the past few days. After our heart-to-heart discussion, my wife and I started looking for a couples therapist. We found one who seemed like a good fit and scheduled our first appointment. However, the night before our appointment, my wife came to me in tears. She confessed that she had been hiding something from me for years. She had been struggling with postpartum depression after the birth of our daughter and had never fully recovered. She said she felt ashamed and didn't want to burden me with her struggles, which is why she pushed me away during labor and in the months leading up to it. I was shocked and heartbroken. I had no idea my wife had been going through this alone for so long. I held her as she cried and assured her that we would get through this together. The next day at our therapy appointment, my wife opened up about her struggles, and the therapist helped us come up with a plan to support her recovery. Over the next few days, we started implementing the plan. My wife started taking medication and attending individual therapy sessions in addition to our couples therapy. I took on more responsibilities at home to give her time to rest and focus on her mental health. It was a challenging few days as we adjusted to this new reality, but we were determined to make it work. However, just as things were starting to look up, we hit another roadblock. My wife's parents, who had been watching our daughter while we were at therapy, got into a car accident on their way home. They were both rushed to the hospital with serious injuries. My wife was devastated and wanted to drop everything to be by their side, but I reminded her that we needed to stick to our plan and prioritize her mental health. We compromised by having my sister watch our daughter while we visited my in-laws in the hospital. It was a difficult few days as we juggled our own struggles with the stress of my in-laws' accident. But through it all, we leaned on each other for support and found strength in our commitment to our marriage and our family. As my in-laws started to recover and my wife continued with her treatment, we slowly started to see progress. My wife's mood improved and she started to feel more like herself again. We had some setbacks along the way, but we faced them together and came out stronger on the other side. Looking back, I realized that my wife's struggles with postpartum depression had been the root of many of our issues over the years. Her pushing me away during labor and my reaction to her not wanting me at the hospital were just symptoms of a deeper problem. By finally addressing the issue head-on and committing to working through it together, we were able to start healing and rebuilding our relationship. It's been a tough few days, but I'm grateful for the progress we've made and the strength of our love for each other. We still have a long way to go, but I'm confident that we'll get through this together. Thanks for reading and for all your support. Ada for leaving my husband after he tried to prove my peanut allergy was fake. So I want to leave my husband. He has verbally abused me and even cheated in the past. Things have calmed down after the last 5 years. We rarely fight, and his verbal abuse towards me has slowed to maybe once a month. But he admitted something to me which not only has me wanting to run away, but I am a little afraid for my life. I have eaten peanuts my entire life. But 4 years ago, I started having reactions every time I ate them. I would eat a Reese cup or a peanut butter sandwich, and my face would break out in a weird rash, and I would start itching all over. My throat would get scratchy as well. I went to the doctor, and they said that yes, people can acquire an allergy at any age. So I stopped eating peanuts and let everyone know that it appears I am now allergic to peanuts. This, of course, made life a bit more difficult with eating out, etc. But then, one day, I ate some fried food that my husband made for the family. I had the worst reaction, and my face started to swell, and my throat was very itchy. My husband started freaking out and wanted me to go to the emergency department. I decided that this reaction wasn't due to any allergy, including my peanut allergy. I took 3 Benadryl and dismissed it as something else. Eventually, the reaction settled down, and I went to bed. Fast forward to last week when my husband was telling my boys how it's normal for women to lie, because we are all drama queens. And then he said, "It's okay to call them out on their BS, just be careful because it can backfire." My husband did not know I could hear him, but I was shocked he was talking like this to our sons. But what he said next made me want to throw up and has me wanting to run from him ASAP. He proceeded to tell them he thought I was being overly dramatic at best and straight out lying at worst over my peanut allergy. He said he decided to call me out on my BS and trick me. He said he bought peanut oil and fried all the food in it so he could straight up call me a liar and prove that I was not allergic to peanuts. He said, but she was allergic. He said she had the worst reaction. He then laughed and said she is a liar anyway, even if she didn't lie about the peanut allergy. I quickly confronted him, and he admitted it to me, all the while laughing at me. My boys just sat there not knowing what to say. If I leave now over something that happened in the past, am I the idiot? ETA, so this is real, and it happened 4 years ago. I just found out about it a few days ago. My boys are all grown up at this point, the youngest being 20. I also had no idea he said these kinds of things to them. I don't work, and I only get a small allowance of his paycheck to buy the necessary items. I am trying to get out, just wondering how with no money. I applied for 30 jobs this weekend. I hope I can get a job and leave. After reading these comments, I am frightened. I am also frightened to leave. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. He saw what happened to you and is still laughing about it. You're fortunate your allergy isn't more severe, but that may change. You don't want this dirtbag experimenting on you. Comment 2, not the idiot. Him being a prick aside, he is raising your kids to dismiss women. Very dangerous. It's a better example to teach them that it's okay to walk away when you're being disrespected. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments and support on my last post. It's been a week since I found out about my husband's horrifying actions, and I wanted to give you an update on what's been happening. After applying for those 30 jobs, I was lucky enough to get a call back from a local grocery store. They offered me a part-time position as a cashier, and I accepted it on the spot. It's not much, but it's a start, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to earn some money of my own. I've been working there for a few days now, and it's been a challenge to adjust to being back in the workforce after so many years. My feet ache from standing all day, and I'm still getting used to the fast pace of the job. But my coworkers have been kind and patient with me, and I'm starting to feel more confident in my abilities. Unfortunately, my husband found out about my new job, and he wasn't happy about it. He accused me of trying to leave him and said that I was being selfish for wanting to work outside the home. I tried to explain that I needed to earn some money for myself, but he wouldn't listen. Things came to a head a few days ago when he came home from work in a rage. He started screaming at me, calling me names and accusing me of all sorts of things. I was terrified, but I stood my ground and told him that I wasn't going to put up with his abuse anymore. That's when he did something that I never thought he would do. He grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against the wall. I was so shocked that I couldn't even scream. He held me there for what felt like an eternity, his eyes filled with a fury that I had never seen before. When he finally let me go, I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. He stood over me, his fists clenched, and said, "If you ever try to leave me, I'll unalive you. Do you understand?" I nodded, too afraid to speak. He stormed out of the house, leaving me there on the floor, shaking and crying. I knew then that I had to get out, no matter what it took. I called my sister and told her everything that had happened. She was horrified and insisted that I come stay with her right away. I packed a bag with some clothes and essentials and left that night while my husband was still at work. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I knew that I couldn't stay there any longer. Since then, I've been staying with my sister and trying to figure out my next steps. I'm still working at the grocery store, and I'm saving every penny that I can. I know that it's going to be a long road ahead, but I'm determined to build a new life for myself, one where I'm not constantly living in fear. Looking back, I realized that I should have left my husband years ago. I had convinced myself that things weren't that bad and that I could handle his abuse. But the truth is, I was just too afraid to leave. I didn't think that I could make it on my own, and I was worried about what people would think of me. But now, I know that I'm stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. I'm not going to let my husband control me anymore. I'm going to keep working hard and saving money until I can afford to get my own place. And I'm going to keep going to therapy to work through the trauma of what I've been through. I know that it's not going to be easy, but I'm ready to face whatever challenges come my way. I'm grateful for the support of my sister and for all of you who have reached out to offer your encouragement and advice. It means more to me than you could ever know. Thank you for reading and for being there for me during this difficult time. I'll keep you updated on my progress as I continue to rebuild my life. If you liked this video, You'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day!